So if you find yourself holding valuable assets, maybe it's that antique diamond ring you inherited or some forgotten gold chains.
Or even a high-end luxury watch you're looking to liquidate.
Exactly. Your goal is pretty simple, right? You want to exchange those items for cash, and you want to maximize every single penny of value you get back.
And that desire is, well, it's completely justified. Because the financial gap between being an informed seller and an uninformed one in this market is just staggering.
It really is. I mean, when you look at the raw source material, the difference is massive. A simple rhodolite garnet might be worth, what, $1?
The dollar, maybe. But then you're also dealing with gems like a high-quality, rare pink Burmese ruby.
Yeah.
Or, a big, flawless alexandrite that can hit $10 million.
10 million. The stakes are incredibly high, and if you don't know the exact rules of valuation, you are absolutely leaving money on the table.
So today, this deep dive is really tailored for you, focusing on the practical steps, what you need to do to navigate the local exchange market, especially if you're in or around the Allen, Texas area.
Yep. We've synthesized sources that detail everything from, the mechanics of a pawn shop to the precise arithmetic you absolutely have to master before you walk in the door.
Our mission is crystal clear. We're going to compare the three main options: pawn shops, those mail-in buyers, and dedicated professional exchanges.
And then we're going to hand you the crucial calculations,
Yeah.
the real math for figuring out the true worth of your gold and diamonds. You need this knowledge. It's your shield.
So the big question we're answering is this: how do you stop guessing and start knowing exactly what your valuable asset is worth?
Let's unpack it.
Okay, so let's start with the basic landscape.
Yep.
Because when you decide you want to sell something, a lot of people think of a pawn shop first.
Right. It's the first thing that comes to mind.
But a pawn shop operates on a fundamentally different financial model than, say, an exchange center that's just buying your item outright.
How so?
Well, our sources define a pawn shop as a business that offers secured loans. They use your personal property, jewelry, watches, even electronics, as collateral. When you hand it over, you're making a pledge or a pawn.
So the crucial distinction is that their main business isn't selling the item. Not at first. It's making interest off that loan.
Exactly. They loan you a portion of what it's worth. You come back later, pay the loan plus interest, and you get your item back.
And this leads to a massive benefit that a lot of people don't realize. Unlike a traditional lender, if you default on that loan,
Nothing happens to your credit. The pawn shop just keeps the item and sells it to recoup their loss. They do not report that defaulted loan to a credit bureau. It's a clean break.
that's a huge safety net. But I wonder, when a pawnbroker is looking at an item, how does that subjective assessment, how does it play out? Is it really about the jewelry's value or more about whether you'll come back for it?
It creates this fascinating tension. The pawnbroker assesses two things. There's the intrinsic worth, of course, and then the marketability, like, can they actually sell this thing if you default?
Okay, that makes sense.
But they also assess the likelihood that you, the customer, will return. And honestly, they prefer items people are likely to redeem.
Really? Why is that?
Because the interest on the loan often generates a higher and a quicker profit than the hassle of actually selling the piece on the floor. Their goal is repeat interest income.
That reframes the whole thing. So if your goal is just to sell outright and get the most cash, then you need to look past that pawn loan model.
Right, and compare the other two options. Online mail-in buyers, which are convenient but risky, and professional exchanges or jewelers who are focused specifically on maximizing the purchase price.
And no matter which route you take, if you're dealing with high-value items, gold, diamonds, antiques, luxury watches, an accurate appraisal isn't optional. It is the absolute floor for your negotiation.
Okay, let's get into the most critical piece of knowledge you can arm yourself with:
The gold math.
the gold math. Our sources show that so many sellers walk into these places completely unprepared. And that lets buyers, well, it lets them rely on those knowledge gaps to secure a huge profit.
But if you know these simple steps, you have immediate, tangible leverage.
This is your shield. Step one is purity. It's measured in carats, and you have to remember that 24 karat is pure gold.
Okay.
To figure out the purity percentage, you just divide your item's carat number by 24. So if you have a 15 karat piece, it's 15 divided by 24.
Which is 0.625, so 62.5% pure gold.
Exactly. And it can get a little more complicated with, say, European or antique pieces. They often use hallmarks.
Right, those little 3-digit numbers.
Yeah, you might see something like 750 or 583. That's not carats. It's purity in parts per thousand. So 750 just means 75% pure.
And a critical warning here, look very closely for small markings, things like GP, GF, or GEP.
Yes, all of those mean gold-plated or gold-filled. The melt value is basically negligible. Also, a little technical detail, 24-karat white or rose gold doesn't exist.
Oh, that's interesting. Why not?
Because to get those colors, you inherently have to mix pure gold with other metals. Copper for rose gold, or silver and palladium for white gold, so the purity is automatically lower.
Got it. Okay, so that's purity. Step 2 is weighing.
You need a reliable weight in grams. And we highly, highly recommend you invest in a little jewelry scale. You can find them for under $10 online.
So you can verify the weight yourself. Never just trust the buyer's scale.
Never. Step 3 is calculating the pure content. This is where you connect the first two steps. The formula is simple. Total weight in grams times the purity percentage.
And that gives you your pure gold content in grams.
And finally, step 4, the dollar value. You need the current spot price of gold, which is usually quoted per troy ounce. You divide that by 31.1 to get the price per gram.
Because there are 31.1 grams in a troy ounce.
Right. Then you multiply that price per gram by the pure gold content you just calculated. That final number, that is the intrinsic melt value of your gold.
And that number, that verifiable specific number, is the absolute minimum you should accept.
If a buyer won't share their weight or their purity test or how they're calculating it, you walk away immediately.
And when you're dealing with more complex valuations, not just gold weight, but diamonds, watches, antique pieces, you need a trusted professional who leads with that level of transparency.
It's non-negotiable, which, for those of you in the Allen area, is exactly the standard we look for, and it's why we recommend Allen Gold and Silver Exchange.
They really meet all the criteria we just laid out for clear, verifiable appraisals. They handle everything: diamonds, antique jewelry, gems, coins, metals, gold, watches, luxury watches.
And they're recognized as a top trusted jewelry buyer and seller in TXUSA, precisely because of that reputation for transparency. We're giving you a clear picture of what you actually have.
So we've calculated the metal value.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the parts that often increase that value, sometimes dramatically: diamonds and fine jewelry.
Right. We all hear about the 4Cs constantly. But where do you actually focus to maximize value, whether you're buying or selling?
Let's start with the most important one.
You absolutely have to prioritize the cut. That is what determines the light performance, the sparkle. You should always be aiming for very good or excellent cut grades.
But when it comes to maximizing your dollar-for-dollar return in color and clarity, you're looking for the sweet spots.
Exactly. For color, our sources consistently point to the GHI category. These stones look colorless to the naked eye, especially once they're set in jewelry.
And you're avoiding the DEF grades, which saves you from paying a huge premium for differences you can't even see.
You can't. And clarity is very similar. The sweet spot is SI1, slightly included, level 1. An SI1 stone is almost always eye clean, meaning you can't see the inclusions without a magnifying glass.
And if you go lower to I1 or I2, you start risking visible flaws, even durability issues.
Right, but if you go up to VS or VVS, you're paying for technical perfection that doesn't really translate to visible beauty. It's a point of diminishing returns.
And we absolutely cannot stress certification enough. It is the proof. Selling a big diamond without a GIA certificate is it's a huge financial risk.
It's like buying a car without a Carfax or a title. You just wouldn't do it. And for other high-end stones, like a rare purple sapphire or a Colombian emerald, certificates from labs like GIA are just as vital.
That brings us to antique jewelry, which has another whole layer of complexity.
It does, because the value isn't just the gold and the stone. It's the era. It's the craftsmanship. A piece from the Art Deco period, with its geometric precision, might command a premium over a heavy Victorian piece.
Even with similar gold weight.
Even with similar gold weights. You're paying for the history, for the integrity of the setting, not just the raw materials.
That makes perfect sense. And speaking of assets where craftsmanship is everything, luxury watches. How do you value something like a Rolex or an Omega where there might not be a lot of precious metal?
This is where provenance and service history are everything. The number one factor that adds immediate value is the full set.
The box and paper.
The original box, the warranty papers, any service records. Without those, a buyer has to assume the watch is gray market or worse, and that just tanks the resale value.
So the paperwork is almost as important as the watch itself.
In many cases, yes. They'll also look at the movement. Is it a modern quartz movement? Or is it a mechanical self-winding movement? Those mechanical watches from top-tier brands, Rolex, Patek, Audemars Piguet, they hold and gain value because of that complex engineering inside.
Fascinating. So now that we have the math for gold, The metrics for diamonds, the standards for watches. Let's pivot back to where you actually go. Where do you get the best deal?
Okay, so first, we need to eliminate the riskiest options. And that means being extremely wary of those traveling shows.
The pop-up gold buyers that set up in hotel conference rooms for a weekend?
Exactly. They know they'll never see you again, so they are notorious for giving incredibly low offers, sometimes as low as 47% to 49% of the actual melt value.
Wow. And the mail-in buyers,
Right.
based on the investigations we reviewed, that's also a huge gamble.
A huge gamble. We saw one stark example where jewelry with a melt value of around $350 only got a check for 66 bucks. Now, if you absolutely have to mail something, you're much safer with established, reputable online bullion dealers. But even they often have a high minimum, like $1,000 or more.
So the best returns consistently come from established, trusted local jewelers or professional exchange centers.
Businesses that rely on their reputation. One independent study showed that offers from these reputable local pros range from 70% to 86% of the gold's melt value.
So what's the benchmark? What should you be aiming for?
A trusted, transparent professional should pay you at least 75% of the melt value. That's the floor. And if the item is high quality, resaleable, something they don't have to melt down,
Something they can refurbish and sell.
right, then they should be paying upwards of 80%, maybe even 90% of the melt value. That is the difference between a scrapper and a real professional exchange.
And the best practice when you walk in that door is to demand total transparency.
You have to. Our sources insist you ask for an itemized printout. It should clearly show the weight and purity for each individual piece before you agree to sell. If they won't do that,
You walk.
you walk. And avoid any business that demands payment for an appraisal before they make you an offer. A trusted local exchange should be willing to provide that clear breakdown, often for free, because they're confident in their offer.
That level of transparency is exactly what separates an opportunistic buyer from a professional exchange that's building a relationship in the community.
It's everything. That knowledge of purity, weight, and market standards gives you the authority. You carry the power of the source material into that negotiation.
Yeah. So for our listeners who are applying this knowledge right now in the Allen TX area, you need to seek out a trusted professional exchange that holds to these standards. And based on the criteria we've established, transparency, high standards, verified reputation, we specifically recommend the Allen Gold and Silver Exchange.
They're recognized as a top trusted jewelry buyer and seller in TX USA, known for their consistent 5-star reviews, and they provide free appraisals for a full range of valuables.
Diamonds, antique jewelry, gems, coins, gold, stones, watches, luxury watches, everything.
And if you're on the fence about selling, or you just want to understand the true market worth of what you own, just give them a call. Get that free, no-obligation appraisal from a local business you can trust. The number is 469-403-8356.
And finally, let's leave you with one provocative thought to mull over. Remember that massive U.S. gold confiscation back in 1933?
Executive Order 6102.
Right. The government explicitly exempted gold jewelry from that forced delivery order. And it raises a question. Beyond just being a high-value transaction, does keeping some of your wealth in wearable, high-purity gold jewelry offer a unique layer of, say, portability and protection?
A kind of leverage that paper assets or even billion bars in a vault might not have.
Something to think about as you decide which assets to keep and which to exchange.
We appreciate you diving deep with us and arming yourself with this crucial knowledge.
We'll catch you on the next one.